Hi everyone, welcome to the third webinar of a series of webinars conducted by TCS Online in lieu of the upcoming strategic case study examinations happening in August 2022. My name is Nick and I'm the lead tutor for SCS at TCS. So before we start tonight's session, let me talk about what we covered under the previous two webinars. In webinar number one, we provided you guys with a study plan, and on top of that, I highlighted the technicalities pertaining to the SCS exam, what you need to know to face the SCS exam successfully. And on top of that, in webinar number two, I highlighted answering technique. It's an extremely important webinar where I described what you need to do to develop answer plans. So I highlighted a certain methodology based on the suggested answer of a mini mock. I highlighted a certain method which you need to adhere to when planning your answers. And on top of that, I also highlighted how you are supposed to manage your time appropriately, because most students run out of time at CIMA case studies when attempting CIMA case studies. So if you missed out on these two webinars, I invite you guys to go watch them on our website. It's under the free content, so simply go to the SCS page and check out the free content, and under the videos tab you would see the recorded versions of the two webinars. And tonight's webinar, the recorded version, will also be uploaded to the website right after the webinar is done. So having said that, let's look at the session outcomes for tonight. First things first, I'll be taking you through examiners' comments. In order to pass SCS successfully, you need to understand the psychology or the needs of the examiner. Okay. And as the second part, I'll be talking about how you are supposed to develop confidence, because as per the CIMA examiner, confident students end up passing the SCS exam, especially when it comes to SCS, since the SCS exam is highly practical. You need to have a lot of confidence before the exam. You have to build confidence before the exam, and on top of that, when you are attempting the exam, you have to maintain the same level of confidence, which will actually help you to gain 10 or 20 additional marks. So I'll be highlighting that as well, about that as well. And if you are if you failed the exam in the previous sitting in May, it's prudent for you to attempt the exam in this session, because the same case study is being used. So I'll be highlighting about what you need to do to bounce back from failure. All right, so first things first, let's look at examiner's comments. As per the examiner, when developing answers, the examiner gives us a guidance with regards to how to develop good answers. So good answers require relevance to the requirement. So first things first, before developing an answer, you need to understand the exact requirement which is highlighted as part of the question. So I've seen so many students, what they do is right after reading the question, they start typing the answer. Don't do that. You should avoid that at all times, because, once you start typing the answer, halfway through, you might realize that you are headed in the wrong direction, or you might realize that the requirement is something else, but your answer, which you had given, is not too relevant to the requirement. So you'd end up deleting your answer, then trying to develop the answer from scratch again. And this leads to so many problems, because then in the back of your mind, you know that you have wasted time, and pressure builds up, and this pressure is brought forward to the, for instance, if you did not attempt the first task appropriately, then this pressure is transferred to tasks 2 and 3 when you are attempting tasks 2 and 3. So you would actually end up failing the exam because of not understanding the requirement appropriately. So your answers need to be relevant to the requirement, relevant to the question. So stick to the answer planning technique, which we highlighted in webinar number 2. If you're yet to check it out, please do it on our website. Then you would know how to develop answers which are extremely relevant to the question or the task at hand. And in order to build good answers, you need to have a good or a sound technical knowledge of the syllabus content. So you need to know your E3, F3, and P3, and a higher weightage is provided for E3 at your SCS exam. So you need to know the syllabus content, especially if you are coming through an exemption route or the FLP, the Finance Leadership Program. You have to go through E3, P3, and F3 related syllabus content, or else you can't pass the SCS exam. And just having this technical knowledge won't help you. You need to know how to apply that knowledge when developing your answers. So at the case study, you are not supposed to, for instance, you are supposed to do a stakeholder analysis. So you should know by now that when developing or when doing a stakeholder analysis, we are supposed to use the Mendelov matrix. But in your answer, you are not supposed to mention the name or the theory or the concept which you are using. Instead, you need to talk about when managing stakeholders, we have to look at the level of power and the interest, and based on that, you have to highlight the type of action you are supposed to take. So that's the type of application which you need. You would understand what I'm talking about if you go through the mini mock, which is uploaded under the free content. And on top of that, if you had purchased mocks from us, when you go through the suggested answers, you would know what I'm talking about. So just having the technical knowledge won't help you. You need to know how to apply that knowledge, especially at the SCS exam, because the exam is highly practical. Okay. And when developing your answers, you need to structure it appropriately. So when structuring your answers, you are supposed to come up with paragraphs. So when providing answers, the examiner, the CIMA examiner has stipulated that you are not supposed to use bullet points, or you are not supposed to provide answers, a single lined or a single sentenced answers. Instead, you have to come up with paragraphs. So for instance, if you have 9 answer points in your answer plan, then for each answer point, you need to have a paragraph, and a paragraph consists of 2 to 3 lines of answers, or it could be 2 to 4 lines of answers as well. Okay, so if you have 9 answer points, then you need to have 9 paragraphs in your answer. Okay, so always use paragraphs when providing answers. And on top of that, if you are bringing out any argument, then you have to justify it at all times. You can't just say something, you can't just recommend something, especially at the SCS exam, you are supposed to do a lot of recommendations. So if you provide a recommendation without backing it up with an appropriate justification, you're not going to get marks, even if your recommendation is accurate. So at all times, remember that you are playing the role of the senior finance manager. You are reporting to a board member. Specifically, you might be reporting to the CFO. So when reporting to a board member, you have to, when recommending something, you have to always back it up with appropriate justification. So you are supposed to do these things when developing good answers. Then the examiner also highlights what you need to do before the exam. So before the exam, the examiner expects you to study all areas of the syllabus. So I highlighted this point earlier as well. You need to know your E3, F3, and P3 related syllabus content. If not, you can't pass this exam. Okay, and this is applicable especially to students who are coming through the FLP route or the exemption route. Although you would have gotten exemptions, you might not have covered all the areas under which falls under E3, P3, and F3. So it's prudent for you to go through at least, brush up your knowledge on E3, F3, and P3 related areas. And you need to, when developing answers, you need to apply to the scenario as much as possible. So when developing the answer, first things first, as I highlighted earlier, you need to understand the exact requirement. And after understanding the exact requirement, you are supposed to develop your answers and you need to apply to the scenario. If not, you won't end up getting good marks. And the examiner wants you to practice tasks before the exam. So that's where the mock exams come in. So I've seen students doing just 2 or 3 mock exams before the real exam. That's not going to help you, because you can't cover the entire syllabus by doing 2 or 3 mock exams. If you are to cover the entire syllabus, E3, P3 and F3 related areas, you need to do at least 5 mock exams. So the examiner wants you to practice tasks, and on top of that, you are supposed to type when practicing these mocks or practicing these tasks. You are supposed to type or write full answers. So what are full answers? So again, I've seen students when practicing mocks or attempting mock exams, what they do is rather than sitting in one place and doing a fully fledged mock, taking 3 hours of your time, because at the exam you are supposed to allocate you are supposed to attempt a paper which goes on for 3 hours. So rather than attempting the full mock, students attempt it part by part. So for instance, they would allocate 60 minutes and just do one task, and on the next day they'll try to do task number 2, and in the preceding day they try to do task number 3. So you're not supposed to do that, because the examiner, I'm not saying this, the examiner, the CIMA examiner wants you to type or write full answers. So you are supposed to allocate 3 hours of your time, sit in one place, isolate yourself, and attempt full mock exams. Why? Because it's better to get accustomed to real life exam conditions before the exam, rather than going through a lot of pressure during the exam because of a lack of practice. So practice, practice and practice, because that's what you need to develop confidence before the exam. And then once you had practice, then you know exactly what you need to do at the real exam. So rather than attempting tasks or attempting when attempting mock, rather than developing answers task by task, you are supposed to attempt full mock exams. Right. So during the exam, what are you supposed to do? The examiner asks you to plan your answers. So that's exactly why I've highlighted answering technique. I said in the second webinar, the previous webinar, I said that you need to plan your answers appropriately. You have to come up with answer plans. So that's exactly what the examiner is telling you. Rather than reading the question and trying to type the answer straight away, you are supposed to allocate some time to plan the answer. So once you plan the answer, you can check it with the requirement to see whether you are headed in the correct direction. If not, you can edit your answer plan. And on top of that, you'd know what type of a structure is there. You'd know what type of information is brought in or can be brought in from the pre-scene to further add value to your answer. So that's exactly why you need to plan your answers. So I've highlighted that you need to allocate 20 minutes to read the question and come up with an answer plan. Then you are left with 40 minutes. And during the remaining 40 minutes, you can simply expand this answer plan or come up with a fully fledged answer. So that's, enough and more time if you stick to our answer planning technique. So the examiner wants you to plan your answers, so it's better to replicate what the examiner tells you to do. And on top of that, the examiner says that the marker or the invigilators are under strict instructions to mark answers on their merits. So just because you write pages and pages of answers, you are not going to get marks. The examiner picks quality over quantity. So in order to come up with high quality answers, again, you need to plan your answers appropriately. So please remember, answer planning is or planning your answers is extremely important. If not, you might run out of time when typing your answers, or you might end up giving a wrong answer. So come up with answer plans, because you are getting marks based on quality, not quantity. Okay, so that's the first part. So we looked at the examiner's comments. So I'm going to highlight the marking criteria. So when allocating marks, 2 markers will allocate marks before the final mark is finalized. Why? Because in order to make sure that there's no undue bias when it comes to marking, or if a certain marker had made any mistakes, the second marker would highlight these mistakes. So in order to make sure that students get the appropriate type of marks, 2 markers will be allocating marks, and mark allocation for each subtask appears as a percentage under each requirement. So I highlighted this in the second webinar. So under each and every subtask, you would see a percentage, and based on this percentage, you can determine how many marks are allocated. So based on the mark allocation, you can determine how many points you are supposed to have in your answer, or how many answer points you are supposed to have in your answer. Okay, so I've highlighted how to do it in webinar number 2. So if you missed it, please go and watch it on our website under the free content. And again, I'm highlighting that marks are allocated based on merit. So the invigilators pick quality over quantity. That's exactly why you need to come up with answer plans before typing your fully fledged answer. Right. So now we are moving on to the second part of tonight's session. Before we move on to this area, any questions, folks? Any doubtful areas? Any questions? All right, since there aren't any questions, I'm going to move forward. So we are in the second part of tonight's webinar, where I said that I'll be highlighting what you need to do to develop confidence. So what are you supposed to do before the exam? Simply, you can stick to the study plan. So refer to the video, the recorded version of webinar number 1 study plan, where we provided an 8-week study plan. And remember, we are providing another study plan tonight, because there could be individuals who had failed their exam in May. So especially focused on individuals who had failed the exam, we had developed another study plan. Okay, so you can, if you had stuck to the study plan so far, you can continue doing that, or else if you failed in May and if you are attempting in August, then stick to the revised study plan which we are providing tonight. And we have shared the initial study plan with you, so refer to that, or else the revised study plan will be shared after the webinar as well. And stick to a routine. It's better to stick to a routine, because you have only 5 or 6 weeks before the exam. So you need to get your sleeping patterns right. So wake up at a certain time on a daily basis and sleep at a certain time as well, because then you are allocating enough time for your mind to rest. It's good to have a rested mind, because I know for a fact that you might be running your own business, or you might have your corporate responsibilities, and on top of that you have family commitments. Balancing all these, whilst you are balancing all these things, you are trying to do a highly competitive exam such as SCS. So you need to stick to a routine, so that you can maintain a balanced lifestyle, so that you can allocate enough time for studies. Okay, so wake up and sleep at stick to a pattern when it comes to waking up and sleeping. Okay, and you are just supposed to do it. I know that you might be not too conversant with waking up and sleeping at a certain time or sticking to a routine, but you just need to do it for 5 or 6 weeks. So at least for the coming 5 or 6 weeks, try to stick to a routine. And if you want to wake up and sleep at a stipulated time, then you need to get your daily meal intake. Okay, so get your breakfast, lunch and dinner at stipulated time slots, so that it makes you easier to wake up in the morning, and it helps you to sleep without any problem. And this would ensure that you can allocate enough study time, and then you can end up passing the SCS exam comfortably. So try to stick to a routine as much as possible. And what are you supposed to do when practicing mock exams? It's better to practice mocks under simulated exam conditions. So try to simulate real life exam conditions. Okay. So one way of doing it is, attempting mocks using TCS's mock exam platform. So we have provided a mock exam platform which is akin to the Pearson VUE system you would see in the real exam. So when attempting mocks, it's better to do it on the exam platform, because then you are getting accustomed to real life exam conditions. And when attempting mocks, try to attempt mocks in isolation. You are supposed to allocate 3 hours of your time. Try to find a place where there aren't any disturbances, and sit in one place, isolate yourself, allocate 3 hours, and do full mocks, because the examiner, CIMA examiner, wants you to do it. Okay, so that's that. And stick to the exam technique routine when you are doing mock exams, because this answer planning technique, you can't do it in the first attempt itself. You need to get accustomed to it. When it comes to managing your time, again, you need to get accustomed to it. So when you are attempting mocks, you are supposed to do it. So if you do 5 mocks, each mock carries 3 tasks. So 3 into 5, you'd be developing 15 answer plans. So once you do 15 answer plans before the exam, and based on these 15 answer plans, when you provide fully fledged answers for 15 tasks, then you'd find it extremely easy to manage your time and come up with high quality answers at your real exam. So rather than trying to test the answer planning technique and time management technique at the real exam, it's prudent for you to do it before the exam when doing mock exams. So according to the answer planning technique which we highlighted earlier, you are supposed to allocate 20 minutes for reading and developing an answer plan, and using the remaining 40 minutes, what you can do is you can type your answers. All right, then what are you supposed to do to maintain confidence at the exam day? That's of utmost importance. Just developing your confidence before the exam won't help you pass the exam, because on the exam day, you need to maintain the same level of confidence. So what are you supposed to do? So before the exam, rest your mind and body. Okay, so I do not want you to attempt any mock exams, refer to study material and whatnot. You have to stop all these things a day before the exam. So I've highlighted that in the study plan which we are providing tonight as well. So I'm gonna further elaborate this point later on. So do not refer to any study material, mocks or answer plans. I want you to go to the exam with an open mind, because you are playing the role of a senior finance manager at Snakwheel. So as a senior finance manager, you won't know what type of questions, the type of questions which will be highlighted in the exam, because the CIMA examiner is trying to replicate a real life corporate environment. So in a real life corporate environment, you won't know the type of problems the company faces. You won't know what type of recommendations your board members are asking from you. Okay, you just go to office, open up your laptop, you check your emails, then you'd end up you'd start providing answers to each and every email. So that's the exact same thing which is happening in your real exam. Okay, so think that you are the senior finance manager at Snakwheel. Okay, go to the exam with an open mind. If you want to go to the exam with an open mind, you're not supposed to refer to any study material, mocks or answer plans a day before the exam or on the exam day itself. And try to let go of any negativity. I know for a fact, even when I was doing my CIMA studies, it's quite normal for you to feel stressed or have negative feelings before the exam. Why? Because CIMA exams are extremely hard, and these are time pressured exams. So you would feel butterflies in your stomach on the day of the exam. For instance, when I was a student, I felt nauseous on the day of the exam. Okay, so don't worry about it. Just if you feel any type of negativity, remind yourself that you have done your work. Okay, remind yourself that it's quite normal for you to feel stressed before the exam. Remind yourself that every student goes through it, and try to come out of it as much as possible. Okay, and it's better to be open-minded, because the SCS exam is highly practical. So you need to have an open mind when attempting the SCS exam. And during the exam, so that's what you're supposed to do before the exam, on the day of the exam. During the exam, what are you supposed to do? Stick to the exam technique routine, because that's what we have practiced. So you by this time you should have attempted 5 mock exams, and when attempting 5 mock exams, you should have stuck to the exam technique routine, where you spend 20 minutes to read and develop an answer plan and 40 minutes to type the answers. Okay, so replicate the same thing at your real exam. And if you feel stressed during the exam, drink some water, because that's gonna help your mind to calm down. Okay, and on top of that, you can also close your eyes and breathe slowly for 2 minutes. You might think that I'm stupid to say this, because you might think that you are wasting your time in a time pressured environment. I'm asking you to take a break for 2 minutes, but this has helped me as well as so many of my students. Because if you feel stressed, rather than trying to move forward, keep moving forward, it's better to take a step back, relax your mind, try to recalibrate, try to figure out what you're supposed to do, try to remind yourself what you're supposed to do at the exam, and start developing answers again. So it's if you feel stressed, this actually works. This actually helps you to get rid of stress. So close your eyes and breathe slowly for 2 minutes, and you can drink some water as well. And if you feel stressed, you can remind yourself that you have done your homework. Because if you had attempted 5 mock exams, if you had gone through all the additional material, if you have a good understanding about the pre-scene, then there's absolutely no point for you to feel stressed at the exam. And remind yourself that you need just 80 marks to pass. In the exam, you would encounter, definitely you would encounter certain tasks or subtasks which you are clueless about an answer. That's totally fine, because you can't score 150 or full marks, 150 out of 150. Instead, you are just supposed to get 80 marks. So you can end up losing marks. You can end up not knowing the answers for certain subtasks. Don't let that stress affect you. Just keep moving forward. All right, so if you feel stressed, do these things. And at the exam, give your best shot and be open-minded, because you are replicating, the CIMA examiner is replicating real life work environment. So in a real life work environment, you won't feel stressed just because you get an email from the CFO. So try to be open-minded, try to stay positive on the day of the exam. Right. So what type of deflections are you supposed to avoid when preparing for the exam? Some students overemphasize on the exam blueprint. It's okay. It's good to go through the exam blueprint, but trying to overemphasize on the exam blueprint is a killer, because you would be wasting your time. So rather than trying to decrypt the exam blueprint, you can simply watch the 3 webinars which we had done, because it's based on the exam blueprint. Okay, and certain students, they try to over rely on predictions as well. That's a killer, because you can't predict anything. I've seen so many tutors out there trying to predict certain scenarios which might appear at the real exam. You can't do that, because again, let me remind you that the CIMA examiner is trying to come up with a real life corporate environment. He's trying to recreate a real life corporate environment. So in a real life corporate environment, you can't predict the type of problems the company might face. So don't rely on predictions. And certain students, they are engaged with excessive industry analysis. I've seen, I've seen tutors out there doing fully fledged pestle analysis, SWOT analysis, Porter's 5 forces analysis and whatnot. These things actually does not matter because it does not add value, because you are not supposed to be an expert when it comes to the industry. So you just need to know the main points highlighted in the pre-scene when it comes to industry analysis. And on top of that, we at TCS, we provide industry analysis slides, which consists of concise information based on real life dynamics of the chosen industry, which will help you better understand the industry. Okay, so simply by going through these slides, you would know everything which you need to know about the industry. So excessive industry analysis needs to be avoided, and misguided use of past papers. I've seen students doing this mistake again and again. So many students out there, what they do is they look at the past variants, but that's not going to help you too much, because the past exam variants are based on different case studies, and these case studies might not have any link to the present case study which you are using, or based on which the exams are developed. So because of that, rather than looking at past papers, it's better to look at relevant questions, or questions which are extremely relevant to the present case study. And information overload is a problem as well, because students try to do too much. So just stick to our plan. That's what's necessary for you to pass the exam. Okay, rather than going through a lot of information or a lot of material, just stick to our study plan, just stick to our material. Then that's what you need to pass the exam comfortably. All right, so there may be students who are who attempted their SCS exam in May, and you might have failed. So you need to be involved with a personal reflection in order to bounce back from failure. Okay, so you need to figure out whether you gave your best. So you need to sit in one place and figure out what actually happened at the exam, whether you ran out of time, whether your answer planning technique was not up to standard, whether when it comes to typing the answers, whether your typing speed was not up to standard, not up to the requirements, or it could have been that you misunderstood a certain task. It could be that you did not attempt any mocks before the exam, or you attempted just 2 or 3 mocks. So you need to sit in one place and figure out what actually went wrong, because that's how we are supposed to develop solutions. Okay, so where did you go wrong in the exam? You need to diagnose the reasons first and address them this time, or else you'd keep on repeating the same mistakes over and over again, and in such a context you end up failing the exam. Okay, so refer to the mini mock and suggested answers, as well as the you can go through the examiner's report as well to figure out what type of answers you are supposed to provide for each and every question. And if you did not get feedback on your mocks last time, it's prudent for you to go opt for it this time, because then you would know what type of problems are there in your answer, and what you need to do to overcome these problems. Because at TCS, we provide extremely relevant and elaborate personalized feedback for 3 mocks. Okay, so these are the type of feedback which we provide. As you can see, for each and every paragraph, I've come up with an elaboration highlighting the problems. Okay, and on top of that, at the very end, we allocate marks as well based on the weightages for each and every subtask, so that you are in a position to figure out which areas you need to build on, and what type of mistakes you need to avoid. And at the very end, we provide general comments as well. Okay, so if you failed, it's prudent for you to go for personalized tutor feedback this time. And based on that, based on diagnosing your problems, you need to develop an answer plan to avoid all these problems this time. So you need to work harder and smarter than the previous attempt. Okay, so that's what you're supposed to do. So I've highlighted common reasons for failure, which hopefully would help you to figure out what went wrong in the previous sitting. Okay, practicing just 2 or 3 mocks, that's a killer, because as I highlighted earlier, you can't cover all syllabus areas or all types of syllabus content when you're attempting just 2 or 3 mocks. You have to attempt at least 5 mock exams. Then once you do it, as I told you earlier, you'll be developing 15 answer plans, and that's enough practice when it comes to attempting your real exam. Because once you have developed 15 answer plans, developing answer plans at the real exam is going to be a walk in the park. Okay, so rather than practicing just 2 or 3 mocks, it's prudent for you to practice 5 mocks. And not practicing mocks under simulated exam conditions, again I highlighted this point earlier. Rather than attempting mocks task by task, it's better to sit in one place, allocate 3 hours, isolate yourself, and replicate a real life exam scenario when attempting your mock exams. Okay, then you are getting accustomed to real life exam conditions. Then you would feel the same level of stress, then you'd feel the same level of negativity. And when attempting 5 mocks, you are going through the same process over and over again, and via practice you can come up with a perfect system to tackle SCS without a problem. And lack of technical knowledge could be a killer as well. Especially I've seen this with students coming through the exemption route or the FLP route, because they lack a proper understanding about E3, F3 and P3 related syllabus content. So it's better if you can brush up your knowledge on these areas. So we've made your life easier, because we have developed revision cards. So this is a sample of revision cards pertaining to E3. As you can see, all syllabus areas are covered, and our revision cards are concise and precise. It's not too elaborate. Just the main points are highlighted, so that what you have only the relevant. We have highlighted only the relevant, the most needed information within our revision cards. And there could be shortcomings in application of knowledge, for instance, when suggesting KPIs. So I've seen, I've seen students trying to memorize KPIs. You're not supposed to do that, because when developing KPIs, you just need to read the question, and based on the requirement, based on what is highlighted in the scenario or what is highlighted in the reference material, you are supposed to develop KPIs. So rather than doing that, people try to memorize KPIs. You're not supposed to do it. Okay, so that shows that although you know your syllabus content, you cannot apply your knowledge appropriately. So how can you overcome this problem? By doing mock exams and going through the suggested answers of mock exams. Then you would know what type of application is needed from you. Then you would know how to bring in theoretical knowledge when developing your answers. Then you would know what type of information need to be brought in from the pre-scene to add value to your answer. So go through the suggested answers to figure out how to apply your knowledge at the real exam. And inappropriate answering technique is another killer. So as I told you earlier, so many students out there, once you read the question, straight away they start typing answers. So I asked you not to do it previously as well. Instead, stick to an answer planning technique. Allocate 20 minutes to read the question and develop an answer plan, and the remaining 40 minutes can be allocated towards typing your answers. And mismanagement of time is a killer as well. So many students fail because they are knowledgeable, however they run out of time. Because of that, they can't give proper answers or fully fledged answers. So again, if you stick to our answering technique, you'll be avoiding this mistake as well, because our answering technique is developed, or answer planning technique is developed in such a way that you have enough and more time to type your answers. And lack of evaluation could be a problem as well. If you have not opted for tutor feedback, you need to evaluate your answers on your own. So you need to compare your answer with the suggested answer to figure out where you stand. Okay, so lack of evaluation is a problem, because some students who are extremely comfortable with self-study, they know how to do this. But if you feel that you cannot properly understand the contents in the suggested answer and your answer, if you cannot evaluate your answer with the suggested answer, it's better to go for tutor feedback, because we are trained to understand the shortcomings, and based on that we will be providing we will be criticizing your answers. That's constructive criticism at all times. And not adhering to a study plan could be a killer as well, because I know for a fact most students start preparing for the exam just a week or 2 weeks before the real exam. You're not supposed to do that, because once you're trying to do so much within the last 2 weeks or the last week, you are facing a lot of stress, and with that amount of stress you bring it forward to the real exam, and you end up losing a lot of marks because of undue stress. So rather than going through a lot of stress, it's better to use your time wisely. So you have 6 weeks to the exam, so you can start working or preparing from Monday onwards. Okay, so stick to a study plan. In order to make your life easier, we had developed a study plan on your own, which is highlighted in here. If you couldn't clear your SCS exam in May, try to stick to this study plan. So as you can see, we have developed a 6-week study plan. So the first week starts from the coming Monday, which is the 18th of July. So 18th July to 24th of July, you are supposed to read the annotated pre-scene, watch the 4 pre-scene analysis videos, because based on the 4 sections of the pre-scene, we had developed 4 pre-scene analysis videos, so that you are in a position to better understand the content which is highlighted within the pre-scene. So you are supposed to do it within the first week. Watch the recorded video of SCS webinar number 2, answering technique. Why am I asking you to watch this recorded version? Because in the first week itself, you are supposed to start attempting mocks. So before you start attempting mocks, it's better to polish up your understanding or knowledge about answering technique. So once you watch this webinar, you are supposed to attempt mock number 1 under simulated exam conditions. Allocate 3 hours of your time, isolate yourself, there can't be any disturbances, and you are supposed to sit in one place and do full mocks as per the requirements highlighted by the CIMA examiner. And just attempting mocks won't help you. After attempting the mock, you are supposed to develop answer plans based on the suggested answers of mock number 1. Why am I asking you to develop answer plans based on the suggested answer? Because then you are in a position to compare your answer with that of the suggested answer. So when you have an answer plan, you are actually summarizing the entire answer, entire suggested answer. So once you have a summary, then you are in a position to better understand the content of the answer. You are in a position to better understand the structure of the answer. And on top of that, closer to the exam, rather than going through pages and pages of answers, you have a short note at hand. So you are saving a lot of time when you develop answer plans based on suggested answers. So you are supposed to do that. It helps you when it comes to evaluating your answers with that of the suggested answer, as well as since you are coming up with a summary closer to the exam, you can simply go through these answer plans to figure out what the requirement is and what type of answers you are supposed to provide. Okay, and in week number 2, you are supposed to go through the E3 theory recap slides, because as I highlighted earlier, E3 is heavily tested in your in the SCS exam. And after doing that, attempt mock number 2 under simulated exam conditions and develop answer plans for mock 2. And in the third week, from the third week onwards, you are supposed to seek feedback for your mocks. So just go through the P3 theory recap slides in week 3, attempt mock number 3, develop answer plans based on the suggested answer for mock 3, and refer to personalized tutor feedback, because from mock 3 up until mock number 5, we at TCS, we are providing one-to-one or personalized attention to your, or personalized feedback to your answers. Okay, I myself will be evaluating your answers, and as I showed you before, this is the type of feedback you would get. Okay, and in week number 4, you are supposed to refer to F3 theory recap slides, then attempt mock 4, develop answer plans, and refer to personalized tutor feedback. And if you are doing your exam in August, you have to book your exam before the 9th of August, because exam entry closes on this date. And in the 5th week, you are supposed to attempt mock number 5, develop answer plans, and refer to personalized tutor feedback. So what you can see in here is, compared to week number 1, in week number 5, which is closer to the exam, your workload becomes lesser and lesser. So on a week by week basis, your workload becomes lesser and lesser. You are supposed to allocate some effort in weeks 1 to 4. Rather than that, and closer to the exam, your workload becomes lesser. Why? Because I do not want you to go through a lot of stress. So try to work in the coming 4 weeks, put in a lot of effort in the coming 4 weeks. Then closer to the exam, 2 weeks before the exam, you can actually relax. All right. And what are you supposed to do in the exam week, which is the 6th week? You are supposed to refer to additional material, such as the financial analysis slides, industry analysis slides, and top 20 issues. And refer to the answer plans of all 5 mocks. Then you are revising the answers. You are going through the answer plans. You are revising the answers again and again closer to the exam, which is going to help you at the real exam. And read the annotated pre-scene one last time. Okay, so this is the type of material which you would get your hands on. This is the annotated pre-scene. So as you can see, we have come up with annotations highlighting the most important facts in here. So everything, all the information is summarized and concise and easily understandable. We have done this to make your life easier. Then you are just supposed to go through these annotations and remember these annotations. Not everything, but by going through these annotations, you would know what type of scenarios can be tested in the exam, because we have highlighted, based on the hints provided by the examiner, we have highlighted what can be tested. And on top of that, we have highlighted certain theoretical content which can be tested as well. And on top of that, this is a summary of the entire pre-scene. So you are supposed to do it, read the annotated pre-scene one last time, and stop all work a day prior to the exam. You are supposed to sleep, eat, and rest well. So let's assume that you are doing your exam on the 24th of August. Then you have to stop all your work by the end of 22nd of August. You are supposed to relax on the 23rd. You are not supposed to do any work, because you are playing the role of a senior finance manager. I want you guys to rest. I want you guys to go to the exam with an open mind. So if you are doing your exam on the 24th, you have to stop all your work or preparations by the 22nd of August. So if you stick to our study plan, you would feel less stressed. So I said that most students try to do too much in the last 2 weeks. Rather than doing that, if you stick to our study plan, you are relaxing in the last 2 weeks. You don't have too much to do. And on top of that, Let me also highlight that when attempting mock exams, you can stick to a methodology such as this, which I'm going to highlight right now. Let's assume that you are attempting mock number 3. So you can leave out Monday because Mondays are hectic. So you can attempt mock number 3 on a Tuesday. Then you are supposed to develop answer plans based on the suggested answer. You can do it on Wednesday. And if you had opted for tutor feedback, we provide tutor feedback within 48 hours. So by Thursday, you would get your feedback. So you attempt your third mock on Tuesday. You develop your answer plans based on the suggested answer on Wednesday. And by Thursday, you get feedback. So you'd know how much you have scored. You'd know what type of shortcomings are there in your answer. And based on that, you have 3 more days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the entire weekend to yourself, where you can, try and let go of any problems which are highlighted in the feedback. Okay. And if you did not, go for tutor feed, if you do not opt for tutor feedback, that's totally fine. You yourself is in a position to compare your answer to that of the suggested answer. So if your typing speed is not up to standard, you have 3 days to work on it on a weekly basis. If your answer planning technique is not appropriate, then you can again develop an answer plan for mock number 3 on your own. And on top of that, if you feel that you cannot manage your time appropriately, you can work on it on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Okay, so you have enough time. On a weekly basis, you are attempting 1 mock at a time rather than doing 5 mocks on a certain week. On a weekly basis, you are just attempting 1 mock. So in such a context, you have enough and more time to overcome your shortcomings and develop your confidence at the same time. Okay, so stick to something like that. Tuesday, you do the mock. Wednesday, you develop the answer plan. By Thursday, you get the feedback. So based on the feedback, you can on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you can work on your shortcomings or to get rid of your shortcomings. So if you stick to our study plan, you need not allocate a lot of study time. So you have to allocate 3 hours to attempt the mock, that's there. But to develop an answer plan, it would take about 1.5 hours. And to work on your shortcomings, you would have to allocate something like 1 hour or 2 hours per day. So all in all, I'm talking about allocating something like 8 hours of study time per week. So that's something like 1 or 2 hours per day. So that's, I hope that you can, find that amount of time rather than trying to work wonders closer to the exam. All right. So if you're attempting the exam at home, CIMA had given the opportunity to attempt the exams at home because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you're doing that, refer to the CIMA exam information page. This is the link. So go to this link and read through the content thoroughly before the exam, because the examiner has highlighted everything about the exam platform and what you need to do. So, try out the CIMA exam platform by following the guidelines mentioned, because you need to get to know the exam platform before you attempt your real exam. So please go to this link and try out the exam platform. All right. So before we end tonight's session, let me talk about the services which we are providing. I see that a question had been posted on the chat section. I will be addressing this later on in a while. So we are providing 2 packages. Package number 1 is known as the Essential Pack. So if you purchase this, you would have access to full pre-scene analysis videos and the annotated pre-scene, the industry analysis slides, financial analysis slides, top 20 likely issues, and the SCS familiarization kit. And most importantly, you would get your hands on 5 exam standard mock exams and suggested answers. And you would have access to the WhatsApp discussion forum as well, where I think you are already part of it. So you can, share your knowledge with each other, with your colleagues. And if you have a certain question pertaining to the pre-scene or the case study, or if you have a question pertaining to any syllabus area, you can raise these concerns, because I'm part of the WhatsApp group. I'm more than happy to help you guys out. And the essential pack comes with a pass guarantee. So after utilizing our services, still if you end up failing the exam, you would have access to the material in your subsequent sitting free of charge. So that's the pass guarantee which we are providing. So the investment is going to be £99. Then looking at the value pack, you would get access to all the material which I highlighted under the essential pack. On top of that, you would have access to the online mock exam platform. So the examiner has highlighted that it's important that you attempt mock exams under simulated exam conditions. To ensure that you can do that, we have developed our own online mock exam platform. So you can attempt all 5 mocks within this platform. And we are providing professional marking and feedback on 3 mocks, namely mocks 3, 4, and 5. This is going to help you immensely if you failed in your previous sitting. And we are also providing theory recaps for E3, F3, and P3 related study areas. These theory recap slides are extremely concise and easily understandable. And on top of that, you can download this material as well. So the investment is going to be £199. So you might be wondering whether to go for the essential pack or the value pack. So if you had aced your OTQ exams, and if you're comfortable with self-studies, if you can evaluate your answers on your own, then go for the essential pack. All right. And on the other hand, if you failed the exam last time, and if you are coming through the exemption route or the FLP route, or if you struggled with your OTQ exams, or if you're returning to CIMA studies after a prolonged study break, then go for the value pack, because you need all the support when it comes to evaluating your mocks. It's better to attempt mocks under real exam conditions, and you'd get your hands on the theory recap slides, because you need to brush up your knowledge on theoretical areas. All right, so having said that, we are moving on to the Q&A session. So let me pause the recording. So let me take you to let me take you through our website. So in order to access our free content, simply go to the SCS page. We are on the SCS page, and it says in here, click here to access free content. And by clicking here, you are supposed to register with us, or you are supposed to come up with your own user account. And under this user account, you would have access to free content. So our free content consists of the recorded versions of the 3 webinars. And on top of that, you would have access to one of the pre-scene analysis videos. As I highlighted, we are offering 4 pre-scene analysis videos. So out of these 4 videos, 1 is available free of charge. And on top of that, you would have access to the mini mock and the suggested answer. The questions are downloadable. Okay, so please go through our website. We have not, calculated the pass rates as yet for the May sitting. For February, it was 100%. So we are still in the process of calculating the pass rate. So you can simply purchase the essential pack by clicking on this via the website itself, and the value pack can be purchased from here. And before purchasing any of our material or any of our packages, please go through the FAQ section, because in the FAQ section, we have, uploaded all the samples. So go through the sample, all the sample material before you decide on purchasing any of our packages, because then you are in a position to figure out the quality of the services which we are offering. Okay, if you're not satisfied with it, then you can avoid purchasing any of our material. So yeah, that's that. I think yes, George. So it comes up to something like $235. All right, so seems like there aren't any questions, so I'm gonna end the session. So before I end the session, you can, if you want to contact us, you can simply do it via the website. You can simply drop us an email or WhatsApp us on this number. And on top of that, I urge you to follow us on our social media handles, especially Facebook, because we have a separate Facebook page for SCS students. So please be part and parcel of it. Then all these recorded versions of the webinars are uploaded onto YouTube as well. So you can check it out on YouTube. And on top of that, check out our blog posts, because we have highlighted all the technical areas as well as what you need to do to comfortably pass your SCS exam. So having said that, it brings us to the end of tonight's webinar. Thank you very much for joining in. If you have any concerns, please raise them on the WhatsApp group, or simply direct message me through the WhatsApp number which I've highlighted. I hope you have gained something out of these webinars which we have done. And let me reiterate that if you missed out on any of the webinars, please watch the recorded versions, because by watching these 3 webinars, you know all the technicalities you need to get right when attempting the SCS exam. So if you have any concerns, please direct message me. And thank you very much for joining in. We value your presence, and let me wish you all the best for the upcoming examination. Thank you very much. Good night.